Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. The last week or so, I'm not sure exactly what's been going on, but the cryptocurrency market has gotten, I want to say, like a little bit weirder than it normally is. It seems now, of course, we'll get more into it as the video goes on. It looks like people are becoming far more divided, one-sided than they have been in like a very long time within the cryptocurrency space. But I think it's, if I can be completely honest, I think it's doing something mentally to people, but I also think it's kind of on purpose. We're going to get into it because there's a lot to cover. I was looking around for what was going on, and I was like, I kept on seeing the exact same pattern once again, kind of over and over. In the beginning, to be completely expected, people are looking to see where Bitcoin's price is going to go. This isn't anything new or fantastic or crazy. People are trying to figure out where we are going to be by the halving. I'm seeing more people finally discussing the halving. Everyone's dates are completely off. I've seen no two that are the same. I've seen the 12th of April. I've seen the 16th of April. I've seen the 18th of April. I've seen the 20th of April popping up a lot as well. It's all different guesstimations based off of how many blocks are currently being produced, the validated transactions, and all these other things, where people think we're going to be by a certain time once we get to a certain block number. The predictions, of course, are all stratospheric. Is that a word? They're in the sky as well. No one thus far has any type of negative idea of where we're going to be during the actual bull run, which is very nice to see because, like I mentioned before, in the past, a lot of times people give really weird numbers. They don't come true. But the problem is that a lot of people like use them as a guide. So we've had situations before where people will literally sell off their coins because a YouTuber told them the price was going down to 4,000. It rises by 16,000 and they're kind of left, not even holding the bag. They have nothing. So it's nice to see that everyone's kind of on the same page at this point. I think it just depends on how like conservative certain numbers are. The pullback that we had in price, for those of you who are brand new here, I see the new subscribers, I see the returning ones. Hello. For those of you who are new here or have simply forgotten, no market ever goes up forever. It is literally impossible. There are always pullbacks. There are always stages where we go completely sideways in price. There's always people who take profits. And there are also situations where we have companies and institutions who are in every single market who make sure that they kind of shake out the little guy. The point is that we're not supposed to be in the market and they want all of the shares, they want all of the coins, they want all of the property for themselves. So we are constantly going to experience shakeouts. We're going to experience situations where Bitcoin's price will fall from 74,000 back to 60,000. It's just something that happens in the market. There's going to be a point where we pass by crazy numbers and people begin to take profit. Going to use my psychic powers here. I'm going to say the same exact thing is going to happen when we pass by 100,000. We're probably going to end up falling to 84, 86, somewhere around there, 1,000. It'll make it into the news. Bitcoin's price has collapsed, yada, yada, yada. I understand the fear. I get it. I've been in this market for a while, and even when I was brand new in the market, of course, it shakes the living daylights out of you because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm losing money, especially if this is the first time if you've ever been into a market. This is why I try to make sure to always reiterate, like, hey, this is a very crazy market. Like, enter at your own risk. It is going to drive you insane because the market movements are, they're not normal, and B, they're also like, this is a brand new market. Anyway, dragging it on back because of, so this is the weird part. Everyone was completely in the sky as far as price predictions for Bitcoin, as the price was simply moving up. We had a lot of really crazy high numbers, and for some reason, everyone's numbers have become far more conservative in the last 10 days, with people now giving, you'll see. So this was very, very popular news. It says financial services firm Bernstein, depends on how you want to say it, depends on where you are, has raised its year-end price target for Bitcoin. They've now risen it to $90,000, comparative to $80,000 where they had it before, citing a confluence of bullish factors. If we don't get to $90,000 by summertime, there's a problem with the market. This was very popular. I think it's simply because it's higher than the current number that we have right now. It sounds like a joke. It's really not. 90,000 is absolutely nothing compared to where we're going. I don't have some of the more like there were a lot of CNBC interviews and other people on podcasts over the course of the last couple of days, and the idea that we've risen some $30,000-$40,000 in price just because of the Bitcoin ETFs, and they're even the slowdown, and I'm air quoting here, that has taken place isn't really a slowdown. For those of you who missed the exact news, on most days we were seeing inflows of money, US dollar value, into the Bitcoin ETFs anywhere between $400 million to around $700 million, depends on the day. And when Bitcoin's price slunk down from 74 down to 61,000, the inflows had slowed to only around $120 million per day. And people were pretending like this was some, oh my gosh, like only $100 million. You know what? How much $100 million is? Do you understand that, like, the idea that even if that was the basis for how much was flowing into the ETFs every day, that's still billions of dollars. And even since then, as prices have picked back up once again, that number has also risen again, and all the doomsday articles of, oh no, the ETFs aren't doing as well, have also gently subsided. According to a recent report by analysts Gautam Chugani and Maki Sapra, a new Bitcoin bull cycle is underway, fueled by strong inflows into the newly launched. Keeping in mind, this is still new. It's been 2 months and a week. Bitcoin ETFs, aggressive expansion of mining, and record-breaking mining revenue, which is also constantly in the news being thrown around as well. For those of you who haven't, and I don't know why people do this. I assume it has to mainly do with some type of sensationalism. People who mine Bitcoin have to pay electricity. The electricity costs money. And they're usually their only source of like mega revenue comes from the mining of Bitcoin. So when they have to pay their electricity bill, they sell off some of their Bitcoin to pay for their electricity. That's the news. A lot of the articles in the last 2 weeks or so, and I mean it's a really weird fear-mongering kind of thing where they're talking about like, will people continue mining Bitcoin when the halving happens? And it's like, yes, you idiot. Of course they're going to continue mining. Will miner revenue go down? And it's like, if it gets cut in half, it's going to go down, but then it goes back up as the price of Bitcoin happens because of the supply shock and because of the issuance rate being cut in half. I don't know how to make that any clearer. Like, it's crystal clear, or rather it should be. They've been making an enormous amount of money along with the amount of Bitcoin that they're mining. They're also validating transactions, and they get the actual fee from the validation. This is why you see like the Bitcoin fee for like using the network has been rising. Same exact thing with Ethereum, yada yada. It's extra usage of the blockchain. That money goes to someone. You're paying the transaction fee to someone to validate your transaction. So they're doing completely fine, and they always have. But for some reason, every cycle there's constantly articles talking about like, will people stop mining? Bitcoin's hash rate is going to crash. And it's like, no, it's actually probably going to go a lot higher up, especially as the price continues rising, because people want some of those sweet Satoshis. The analyst noted that people who mine Bitcoin remain compelling buys for equity investors seeking exposure to the crypto cycle. This was reported by CoinDesk. They noted they foresee a 7% hash rate reduction after Bitcoin's upcoming halving versus the 15% reduction that they were previously calculating. The idea being that people would be less inclined to mine Bitcoin as the halving happens. But this never happens. You'll have smaller people who unplug their computers, but the mega, people who have 10,000, 30,000 machines, they plug in more because they understand that they have to get as much as possible at a lower rate before the price continues to actually go up. It talks about the hash rate, yada, yada, yada. Then it talks about the halving itself and how the amount of Bitcoin is going down from 6.25 to 3.125 BTC. We're not that far off. I'm very excited. Not a lot of things really. The words not surprise me, but kind of like get me going in markets. But like I've been waiting for this one halving in particular. When I first got into the market a number of years ago, this was touted as the halving that would kind of change everything. And I mean, it already. We're not even at the halving, but you understand. It's already like the world has changed for Bitcoin with the introduction of the actual ETFs. Very popular news. Everyone's throwing it around. I think any kind of news that has a number above wherever we currently are, people go completely insane for it as some kind of new, amazing, wonderful thing. Arthur Hayes is back in the news. And I mean, sure, why not? I think he's swapped over to some unimaginable type of... He basically is talking about that Bitcoin's going to $1 million by the end of this cycle. Like we're currently in a cycle, and the cycle will be over around October, November 2025. He joins now an ever-expanding list of people who have come forward with... I mean, I thought some of the original numbers were a bit bonkers, but I mean, who knows? To throw the penny into the hat. Not a saying, but it sounds like something. We could hit $1 million. Are we going to by the end of next year? Probably not. The more believable ones still to me are anywhere from 200 to 250,000. This seems the most likely, seeing as how we've moved up thus far based off of just simple accumulation and have not gotten to the halving. Because the halving always, that's where the craziness begins. But we have the him, the Max Kaiser, the Samson Mao, the Adam Back, I think his name. I always want to say Adam Rock, and I don't know why. And like a couple of other people who are now calling for like a super cycle where they are talking about that not only are prices not going to dip or the dips won't be long lived, similar to this one, the dip that we had in price lasted for, I think, 2 days. Normally dips in the market tend to last a lot longer, but I explained to you every time there is a dip, BlackRock and other companies are buying. It's just complete logic, at least at this point. And they think that we are in for some kind of I don't know the word. Something crazy is supposed to happen to the market where basically prices won't go down. We get past the halving. A lot of people are calling for a 200,000 by the end of this year. Once again, I try to stay in like a center lane. It is a bit difficult not being excited at all the stuff that's going on, especially when we see the actual news and stuff. I don't think I have it here. There was another article. I couldn't roll my eyes hard enough. Like I think it hurt my brain as I tried to do it. The articles, there were multiple, but there was one in particular that said they were trying to explain that it is not just the ETFs that are moving the price. And they were like, in surprising news, people are buying Bitcoin. It's not just Fidelity and BlackRock. It's also other people and other and I was like, the problem is that the person who wrote that and probably other people who are reading it, they were like, oh, other people are buying Bitcoin. We've been going over that for, I hope, at least a while, at least in my head. as far as like, yeah, we know that it's not just those two companies. It should be reiterated that those two companies are doing a lot, but they're not doing everything. A lot of the movement that we're seeing is also from other wealthy people who are buying up as much as possible. If we know now from the, now as I'm making this video, I think we only have 1.3 million Bitcoin left to mine, and it's going to take us 115 years. Of course, other people are buying. I don't know why people are constantly so confused. Like, if we get news that BlackRock and Fidelity are buying, people take it as like they're the only people in the space who are buying. And it's like, that's not how this works. Anyway, so wonderful. The optimism remains for Bitcoin. I find it so sad that a lot of people get like discouraged when prices drop. I don't understand wanting to leave the market because the prices went down by a little bit. It's all very, very odd for me. This is why I always say, do your own research, learn more. You have to like expand your knowledge of the space. And I don't mean buying crappy meme coins. I mean like actually learning what's going on so that you have a better handle and grasp of the market and understand the events and cycles that we've gone through before. That's the Bitcoin's going to do just fine. I think 90,000 is way too low, but I mean, who knows what's going to happen this year? Everything's been kind of crazy already. Okie dokie. Let's move on. So here's the story of the day. Stories of the day. I'm getting a bit of Vujade. That's deja vu, but just spelled differently. Where basically I'm seeing a pattern re-emerge for Ethereum, and I think this is all happening as like a calculated trying to get something done. I'll explain. For those of you not looking at the screen, it says a Fortune report on the 20th of March revealed apparently that there's an ongoing investigation by the United States Securities and Exchange Commission into the Ethereum Foundation, and they're trying to prove that Ethereum is a security. This is major news, and I got a lot of messages from friends and other people, and it's difficult to write in text the words, "Leave me alone, I don't care." You can't say that to family and friends. It's not very, very nice. I've seen this before, and I notice a lot of times, or nearly all the times, the people who are afraid of this news tend to be new to the market and or got introduced to cryptocurrencies in some sort of way in 2019, 2020, 2021, never entered the market, but stood on the sidelines looking. They don't know what a security is. And more so, they are confused by the idea and the fear that other articles are giving them as to what a security might be. The long and short of it is, basically the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, they tend to regulate, though they don't at all, regulate and rule over things that are securities. They are things that are purchased by a consumer with an expectation of profit. So you are expecting a company or corporation to do well, and therefore you buy their stock. I buy Apple stock because I see that Apple's doing well. I can assume that Apple will continue to do well, so I buy Apple stock with an expectation of profit from them doing well. This is the general idea. The problem is that the SEC is they're throwing darts into a pool. They're throwing it at computers. They're throwing it wherever they can to see which one lands and which one sticks. This was a discussion even back in good old 2016, 2017. If you have ever read any books about the cryptocurrency space in its earlier days, the idea was then also that Ethereum might be a security. Why? It's because it was created as an ICO along with many other coins back then as a way to get easy public funding. If you're talking about creating a new coin, a new blockchain, it takes money. You have to pay people to develop. You have to pay people to do to put everything kind of out there. And the easiest way to do it was not to go through an IPO, an initial public offering through a stock exchange, but to launch an ICO where people gave you money for the funding of the project. and you handed them coins in exchange. The issue is that back then there was no real regulation for this, and the only people who stepped forward, and now we know that they're complete, almost cursed, and utter monsters, was the SEC, claiming that anything within the cryptocurrency space that had to do with money fell under their jurisdiction. We saw this recently as well and are still seeing it with the ongoing Ripple versus SEC lawsuit. The idea is that if there's a company, an institution, a foundation, anything that's tied to a coin, well, people are praising that foundation, and it's based off of the foundation's work that is what people are investing into them for, which also isn't exactly true, I think, in any way. I think the space has kind of moved on from the idea of these like monoliths. I think we have people who people look up to in the space. So people will look at Vitalik with a type of reverence and go, he made Ethereum. They'll look at the guy who made Litecoin or the guy who made Dogecoin. They're no longer, I think, seen as like pillars of the space. And I have never in 8 years heard anyone say, yeah, I bought some Cardano because of the Cardano Foundation. People like the idea of the coins. They like what they say that they're going to do. They like the future prospectus. They like the idea of the upgrades. That's kind of what it comes down to. So the SEC is now apparently openly trying to target Ethereum or Ether, the coin, as a security. This won't work regardless of what they try, because in realistic news, Ethereum is far more decentralized than XRP currently is. The SEC has no jurisdiction over the other countries around the world, and it'll be impossible for them to tell millions of people in other countries, we now have control over this network. Anything that's done with this coin within this country has to go through us. That's the general idea of what they're trying to do. They're trying to basically gain control because they're figuring out that they have no control. One of the really weird things, if you keep up with tech and things like that, when it comes to the idea of like AI, I mean, not to put us in the year 2040, but the idea is that if you can read a book that says what the laws and rules and regulations are, you can essentially feed that into a computer or feed that into an AI and basically ask it yourself. Hey, I'm thinking of opening a company and I'm going to be issuing stocks. What exactly do I have to do? The AI would be able to tell you. The idea is that cryptocurrencies and blockchain are putting us in the path for a future where government strength and government influence aren't as strong anymore, because the chains themselves and along with the other millions of people around the world can be self-governing. That's a whole nother topic in conversation. And the SEC also knows this, and they're desperately trying to get control of a market that they cannot have control over. So this looks like one final last ditch effort. There's been a lot of stuff in the last couple of days between Brad Garlinghouse and other people, going on TV and talking about the SECs are losers. And it's really sad that it had to even come to this. If you never heard before, there's one person who works in the SEC. Her name is Hester Pierce. She's the only one who's been for proper rules and regulations for crypto. She says she doesn't think any of these coins are securities. And if any of them are, she says, just give them proper regulations, as opposed to what Gary Gensler, this man, has been doing. He's trying to rule with an iron fist. So you don't give regulations, you get people in trouble. You go back and say, well, for the past 9 years, you've done X, Y, and Z terribly, as opposed to being like, anyway, that's an entirely, me and Gary Gensler are not friends, and that should be quite clear. When I was talking about the patterns and seeing that there seems to be like a really weird smear campaign that's going on. And I'm telling you all of this because I want you to understand what's happening, so that you don't stumble upon these articles and you go, oh, something terrible is happening, and you tell your friends and it creates a cascade of nonsense, which what tends to normally happen. There's also big news that apparently Ethereum is currently under investigation by a state authority. And you realize I didn't say the name of a place because everyone's writing that they're under investigation by a state authority. Which state authority? No one will say. It literally says an unnamed state authority. That makes no sense. And part of the problem is that this was, of course, very popular news because it sounds very dramatic. It sounds very shadowy. What state authority is having a problem with Ethereum? Should I be afraid? Will this state authority? No one cares. Not to be mean, whatever that state authority might or might not be, this news is probably fake. Countries do not, as long as I've been in this space, do not keep themselves quiet or in the background. If a country has a chance to get in the news because they're trying to talk about the negativity of crypto, the problems with crypto, regulating crypto, they're going to name themselves. How many times have we go over quite frequently? This country has rules and regulations. This crypto tried to ban crypto. This country tried to ban crypto. This country's doing X, Y, and Z. Why would you not name yourself? What state authority would not make sure that they were in the news to try and show, their muscle for the space? We already know that the US is trying to do whatever against Ethereum right now. So what other state and you understand, it just doesn't make any sense. The problem being is that this made incredibly popular news. A lot of people were like, something shady is going on. And it's like, no, you're constantly just being lied to. And the problem is that the major problem is that a lot of the people who spread this information are usually very rich and have nothing better to do with their time. You think I'm joking? Absolutely not. A number of years ago, the people who were the most against Ethereum were Bitcoin maximalists. And they were Bitcoin maximalists in the space who, if you had read any books or had not even looked into their history, like they were just very prominent figures, these people were noted to have purchased Bitcoin when it was at 50 cents or $1. These people were already millionaires and billionaires. And I'm like, you took time out of your day to talk negatively about a coin. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, just go do something else with your time. If you have no actual proof or anything like that, why are you taking time out? It's a very like Peter Schiff kind of thing. Peter, I don't know why people give this man articles and stuff like that. He's still in the news. He's talking negatively now. He's the gold guy for people who don't know. Peter Schiff is this guy who loves gold. Like, he eats it. It's all, it's all he does. And he's talking now about like how the ETFs have too much money. And I'm like, shut up. Like, go somewhere. It's so nonsensical. Someone else. This is all happening at the exact same time. Keep all of this in mind. So it's the SEC thing. It's the state authority. And apparently someone named Steven Narayoff, I have no idea how to pronounce that, has come forward saying that he has information, insider information that no one else has about how evil Ethereum actually is. His tweet says, unveiling Ethereum's deceptive evolution. The problems with Ethereum, the announcement of the SEC Gov investigation, and the ETHgate movement are all due to the founders' greed and willingness to allow our revolutionary project to become nothing more than a deceptive database. I looked it up, and I mean, you can also, please feel free, the internet's free. I found also articles over the course of the last, I think, 4 or 5 years that were alleged to have also come from Steven Narayoff, claiming the exact same thing. And as of right now, he has never shown any proof. It's more of I know something's wrong. I know something's terrible. This project is evil. No one use it. But there's never been an actual idea as to what it is. For those of you who don't remember ETHgate, ETHgate has to do with the idea that allegedly behind the scenes, people were believed to have paid off members of the SEC to give Ethereum a free pass. I don't, how do I say this? Remember when I said before that I thought the entire FTX circus was like very performative? And it's mainly because all crypto exchanges are doing the exact same thing. To think that FTX was the only one allegedly doing the song and dance is nonsensical. There's a reason. Remember, for those of you who weren't here, like a year and a half ago, the idea was that FTX had no money. They were bankrupt. They were so-and-so, all the whatever, blah, 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 blah. Every cryptocurrency exchange came forward and said, we're going to show you that we're not the same. So we're going to show you proof of reserves. We're going to show you how much money we have all the time, so to show you that we're not like FTX. A month later, all that news disappeared. It's been a year and a half and no one's mentioning. Don't you realize? No one except for Binance is mentioning proof of reserves anymore. They all do the exact same thing. They're all the same kind of company. It's just that one of them had to get in trouble and be thrown under the bus because that's the way that corruption works in every single market. So do I believe that someone paid members of the SEC off? I think living in this current world, the world that we've all grown up in, I think if the SEC never received a suitcase full of money from any coin, I'd be really, 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 really shocked. I don't know if I said the word really inside of there. Also, I think this maybe is something else as well. I don't even know exactly what this is. This is someone named Scott Johnson is also talking about the Ethereum thing with the SEC. I found a number of articles. I couldn't find a lot of them because when you type in Ethereum 2016 and 15, you're marred by a number of other articles that reference 2015 and 2016. What I was able to find was a lot of the stuff that I remembered from when I was just thinking about getting into the cryptocurrency market. This is what I was telling you before. Like, a lot of these articles are meant to scare people from getting into the market, from investing into these coins. It says a $50 million hack just showed that the DAO was all too human. Ethereum had something called a decentralized autonomous organization. People found a way to exploit it. They hacked it. And this was one of the number one news stories back in good old 2016 as a way for people to be able to say, look how evil and terrible and scammy Ethereum is, because nothing else is being hacked. It's just Ethereum. This one literally says why Ethereum is a scam and Bitcoin will succeed. We're moving back into this really weird, like hyper maximalist view of the world. And I mean, it's also because of the halving this year. You will understand the significance of it as time goes on. But there are a lot of people who believe that this is the moment where Bitcoin begins to absorb every other altcoin. That's also something that we're also going to go over the course of the next couple of years. Yeah, I mean, I can show you countless number of articles. This is from 2016. It says, why do some people say Ethereum is a scam? It's just people constantly throwing out like these whatever they can to try and scare people into something, out of something, you kind of name it. But what's happening currently with the SEC thing is them, like, they're grasping for straws as desperately as they possibly can. And the worst thing that would happen is if Ether is a scam, if Ether is, I'm looking at the screen, is a security, the price goes down for like a month and then goes back up because Ethereum can then be traded on stock exchanges, like legally, like every other form of security. I told you that before about XRP. But the issue is that the SEC begrudgingly allowed Bitcoin ETFs to go through, and Bitcoin's doing extremely well. And the problem is that the same companies are now applying for Ethereum ETFs. So the SEC is trying to get control of not only over the Ethereum ETFs, but also the coin itself and the network. But it's literally not possible. It's constantly like walking into a wall, and the wall being from like the 1800s, and it just doesn't. There's such a gigantic disconnect, and I mean this in the nicest way possible. A lot of older people who aren't like, the term's not even tech savvy, but it's just more like you don't know how to do a right click on a computer and you're trying to gain control. You can't control these networks. That's part of the appeal of them. People are tired of their monetary policies being controlled by these 900-year-old people sitting inside of these buildings. It just doesn't make any sense. So now we have these economic policies that are either built into the system, or the community, the entire world, can now decide on how they're going to be for the implementation, for the upgrades and the updates of these things. And you can see that the power is flowing away from the people in the castles, and they don't know what to do with it. This is why we've seen so many countries talking about banning Bitcoin. It's not because Bitcoin's evil, it's because their economic policies are garbage. Bitcoin's value continues to go up against fiat currencies, and people are choosing Bitcoin and Ether and XRP and Cardano over fiat currency. It's not only just the returns, like the returns are nice on paper, but if you look at what the returns actually are, it's the coin outperforming fiat. It's outperforming the legacy thing that we've been chained to for however long these systems have been around. And you see these governments, I mean, it's not just the US, all talking about, well, we have to ban it. We have to have regulations. It's because, for those of you who haven't been paying attention, we see people around the world who are in Argentina, in Turkey, and everywhere around the world, people are choosing these coins as a way to outpace inflation, to get away from the old economic policies. And this is before the masses have actually realized what Bitcoin's economic policies actually are. They're baked in. They're predictable. We know that every 4 years something happens. We know how often a transaction goes through. We know all these things that are set. This is why people keep moving over to this new system. Especially for the idea of Ethereum. If we actually have Ethereum ETFs, Ethereum is going to skyrocket and more people are going to get into it. The more people that get into it, the more people are going to realize that it's deflationary. The more people who realize that, the more people are going to start buying coins and staking it themselves. This is another way outside of the SEC that you'll be able to make passive income. Because the way that it's worked before through this system was that you would buy a stock, it has a dividend, that's the passive income. Imagine being able to do that yourself. You can. Imagine being able to take Ether or take Cardano and leave it on your computer, and it makes you free money. You don't have to work for it. That's the point of this new system. It's literally economic freedom. So when we see these regulators who aren't regulating, they're just trying to constantly scare other people, this is all that they have left. And it's a bit of a shame, because I don't think anyone would have minded, is minded a word, working with them if they had just given proper, clear regulations. But instead, you try to, belittle and scare everyone who's all in these space. And I mean, of course, no one likes you then. Why not just give rules and regulations and be nice? Why try to make sure that you do something terrible? So yeah, we'll see how this unfolds. If the SEC does actually go through with this, and they try to launch a lawsuit against the Ethereum Foundation, the SEC is going to lose, and it is going to be one of the most embarrassing things that has ever happened to any regulator around the world. Because any other country who then tries the exact same thing, the precedent will be the strongest nation on earth said no. The coin's just fine. No one else will be able to fight against that. Then Ethereum goes up even higher than it was going to go before in price, and more people find out about it. It's so sad. It's such a sad state to be in where, like, it's, work with us. We understand that this is a brand new industry. It's one thing to say the entire chain is a security it literally doesn't make any sense. The only thing that could be deemed a security, as I've said before, are other products that are built on top of these systems. So if you have something that's baked into the coin that is not even, the Ethereum Foundation doesn't control the price. We're not looking to the Ethereum Foundation to see where the price of Ether is going. It's based off of its metrics. How many people are using it? How many people, this is the most used blockchain on the planet. That's where it's getting its value from. The only thing that could be deemed a security is if a company like JP Morgan or BlackRock issues something on top of it. They issue something that says, if you hold this coin on a layer 2 solution on top of Ethereum, or do something with this thing and you own it and you hold it and it acts as a bond, you get money from it. Cool. Those are securities. The SEC, it's been the weirdest. And the SEC has been doing this for years. This is what I was telling people before. I see a lot of people celebrating that this is Gary Gensler's last year at the SEC. The last person before him was just as much of a monster. He's going to be replaced by another monster. Yeah, I think that is going to do it for this video. I sincerely hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See